So my name is Takundisa, Magwanyagwanya, and today I'm going to be speaking to you guys about hope in action. What it's like to have hope in action using CBT, DBT, and occupational therapy to reinstill hope in your life. So CBT and DBT are therapeutic interventions that are usually used when a client or someone, a patient, is experiencing suicidal thoughts. So this came to my mind when I heard the story about Emmanuel. It was a very sad story. I was in shock. This Emmanuel seemed like a happy, easygoing guy. You know, if you can smile, you can start smiling. That's just something he had. He just made you smile, make you laugh. So when I heard about what happened to him, I was in shock. But what happened? How did that? And it made me think, if only there was something to step in and stop him from committing those actions. Only, as Shepard said before, there was a wedge between those thoughts and that action. And so I'm going to be giving you guys some strategies to help make that wedge that Shepard talked about a bit bigger. So hope in a difficult situation. When someone's experiencing suicidal thoughts, they're often dealing with intense emotional pain, disconnection, and a sense of not being challenged. But our role is not to fix them, but to help them feel understood, build skills, and re-engage with life in manageable steps. So what I'm talking about is building a life worth living. Across CBT, DBT, and occupational therapy, there's one shared goal, and that is to help people build a life that feels meaningful, manageable, and worth staying for. So CBT, what is CBT? So CBT is a therapeutic approach that believes that your thoughts influences your feelings, and your feelings influence your actions. So if you can have more positive thoughts, you find yourself having more positive feelings and experiences, which would then cause more positive experiences and behaviors. People experiencing suicidal ideation often have thought patterns like I'm a burden, or nothing will ever change, I can't cope. Some practical ways of utilizing CBT to help stop that vicious negative thought pattern follows. So the first is challenging those thoughts. Challenge those thoughts. Question them. Question those thoughts. Is this thought based on evidence, or am I catastrophizing? And so challenging those thoughts is basically the second step. The first step is noticing that you're having that thought. Sometimes you have that thought and you just instantly believe it. Oh no, I just spilled milk all over the floor. I'm useless. I'm a useless person. And you just believe it. You don't even notice that you've won. So the first step is to notice that thought. And the second step is to check it, scrutinize it, challenge it. Am I actually worthless? Or was it just a mistake? Can I do better next time? Things like that will help challenge those unhealthy negative thoughts. And the last step, step 3, is to change that thought. Reframe or replace the unhelpful thought with a more balanced and constructive thought. So those are the 3 steps of not only challenging your thoughts, but cognitive restructuring. Restructuring the brain from a pattern of negative thoughts and believing them to a brain or a thought pattern that now, on the first instance, think something positive or think something more growth oriented. Another strategy is behavioral activation. So behavioral activation notices that depression leads to avoidance behaviors, which leads to low mood, and then the vicious cycle continues. You're feeling sad, you withdraw, making you feel even more sad, and it just keeps going and keeps going. So behavioral activation is intentionally increasing engagement in activities that bring a sense of pleasure or enjoyment. Your brain gets the positive reinforcement that it starts to feel better just by engaging in those positive activities and behaviors. I'm going to be using a three-pronged approach to which is CBT, QT, and OT. So that was CBT. Next, we're going to be doing a bit of a case study. So we can see how it can be used in a real life scenario. Right. So John recently lost his job unexpectedly. Since then, he's been withdrawn socially and reports thoughts such as, I'm a failure, or I'll never get another job, or I've let my family down. What are some of the emotions that come with those days? I would say, Alex, what's the emotion that comes when you're having thoughts like, I've let my family down? What emotion arises when you have the thought, I've let my family down? I'll say, upset? Yes, upset, exactly. Upset, maybe disappointment, yeah, low self-esteem perhaps as well. Yeah. So those sort of emotions of feeling upset and hopeless starts to creep into a behavior that leads into withdrawal and avoidance. Now I just want to do some strategies. I'm going to point and I want someone to see if they can tell me a strategy that can help with these negative thoughts that John is having. The whites. Yes, the glasses. Yeah. What's a strategy you can use to challenge the negative thoughts?
Reshape that. They need to question it. If I know what is happening, the question.
Exactly. The first, as he pointed out correctly, the first step is to acknowledge it. You notice you're having that thought, and then reshape it, challenge it, and that's good. And you can draw through and it happens so many times throughout your day. But the first skill is to notice it. In the Bible, it says challenge and scrutinize every thought and bring it under accordance with Jesus Christ. Yes. And to finish off this case study, I wanted to also read out the Bible verse from Jeremiah 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. So whenever you have those negative thoughts, remind yourself of that verse, that God is here to prosper me and has plans to make me successful. Yeah.
This will be.
The next one is dialectic behavioral therapy, DBT. So DBT is specifically developed for individuals experiencing chronic suicidal thoughts and emotional distress. The skills in DBT includes distress tolerance, emotional regulation, mindfulness, and interpersonal effectiveness. When someone is feeling overwhelmed with negative emotions, we don't tell them to calm down. We give them tools. So those tools, those strategies can look like trying to get that person from that fight or flight mode. So when you're feeling that intense emotional experience, you're no longer thinking logically. You're now in a state of fight or flight. And these strategies, these skills will help take that person out of fight or flight mode into their logic. Yeah, and so the strategies include holding ice for 5 minutes to reset that nervous system, a splash of cold water, grounding, a 5-step grounding technique, which is where you label 5 things that you can see, 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can feel, and then 5 things you can taste. That will help you ground you and bring your mind out of flight or flight and into logical thinking. So DBT also teaches that emotions are valid, but they don't have to control your actions. And the last one is occupational therapy. Okay, so from an occupational therapy perspective, participation in everyday life is central to mental health. Meaningful routines, engagement in valued activities, identity building, and structure and predictability. Hence, those things help build a meaningful life and a meaningful routine. When someone is struggling with daily life, often loses structure. Their sleep changes, they have social withdrawal, and they have a loss of purpose. Occupational therapy helps rebuild that foundation, one small step at a time. So now we're looking at the power of routines. Routines are not just about productivity, they create stability, safety, and predictability. Some examples of positive activities that you can easily slot into your routine that will make a big difference is sleep hygiene. Make sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep so that you have the energy of the brain capacity to function throughout your day. Getting a lot of sunlight, you going on walks. It can really also improve your day. And social connection routines such as texting someone or group activities. Some group activities include maybe perhaps soccer, a group night with the boys. Make sure that it's structured and reoccurring so that you have something to look forward to and something that puts structure and predictability in your routine. Sometimes recovery doesn't just start with one big change. It's usually making a small step and a small change in your routine and to be consistent with it. So we'll be integrating CBT, DBT, and OT to help create hope and a meaningful routine. When we combine these approaches, we create a powerful support system. CBT helps change unhelpful thoughts. DBT builds emotional coping skills. And then OT reconnects people with meaningful life activities. Together, they don't just reduce risk, but they build resistance and resilience. So we're going to the final case study.
Yes.
So the final case study is where a woman called Sarah. She's 29 years old, recently experienced a significant relationship breakup. Since then, she reports that life has no meaning anymore. She can't cope without that significant other. That she shouldn't feel joy without him. That it's wrong. She feels that she's unlovable. That she'll always feel this way. Tanya, after hearing those quotes, what do you think are some emotions that she's feeling right now? Yeah.
I was thinking laughing what is
Not being noticed. Yeah, that's a good point.
I was feeling about living that we just learning around the direction, whether it's around the
Because that she's not someone that would give her attention in another day. She's now lost that person. And now she doesn't have someone to vent to or can really give her the time of day anymore. So she feels unnoticed. So, and other feelings that she may be feeling hopeless, sadness, and these emotions would lead into behaviors such as withdrawing, avoidance, and inactivity. We can use CBT to challenge some of those thoughts. A thought that we mentioned before is that she may think that she's unlovable. But then after using CBT to challenge those thoughts and scrutinize it, she reframed that thought to the relationship ended, and that's painful, but it doesn't define her ability to be loved. Another, for example, now she will get better. She reframed it to right now things may be overwhelming, but feelings can change, even if it is slowly. Right. And it's a challenge that she goes through day in and day out, constantly fighting. It's a battle, constantly fighting these negative thoughts and trying to transform them into more positive. And it's not like that she's suddenly going to be this happy person, but no, it's to remind her that her life still has meaning and purpose, and to not let those negative thoughts win. But still, at times, we still get these negative waves of emotion, really, really strong waves of negative emotions. When we do feel those things and we feel like the thoughts are starting to overpower us, it's that time that he gives us some, what speak out with coach. That's when it's critical when you have that big emotional negative thought pattern to make that wedge as big as possible. And that is through actions to reset the nervous system. So that can include strategies from DBT, which is splashing some cold water on your face, doing the grounding activity, or those are the two main things to help ground your thoughts when you're in that wave of negative feeling.
option Jesus that was
And the final one, you can use an OT approach to once you've survived and come past that stream of negative emotion, you need something to look forward to. And that's when your things come. You can start small by waking up consistently at the same time, going for a morning activity such as a walk or the schedule daily anchor activities like reading your Bible or just watching. And slowly, even though you may not want to, re-engaging in those social activities that you find meaningful. It could be catching up with a friend or soccer, doing group activities such as bowling. If those little small interactions will slowly build more hope in Sarah's life.
What I see.
So to summarize, what we've learned today is that CBT helps challenge unhelpful thoughts. DBT helps build emotional survival skills. And OT helps rebuild meaningful life structure. Hope is not created by one big change. It's built through small, repeated actions and shifts in thinking. Thank you.